Welcome back to 33 Dreams of Indy. Today I'm joined by Matthew Round-Garrido. Now, is it Matthew or Matt? What do you prefer?
So obviously Matthew is what my parents call me, but some people just take it upon themselves to give me nicknames really. So Matt's one of them. I've been called Matty a lot. Also coming up through karting, Speedo Garrido is one of my nicknames.
Speedo Garrido. Okay, so we
Yeah.
might go with Speedo. My brother's name is Matthew, and the only time he used that name was when he was in trouble. So
Yeah.
I know it goes through that. So you're currently in England. You just returned back there after winter testing here in Florida. Tell me about the weather difference and which one you prefer, huh?
No, it's quite tight. No, I definitely prefer the Florida weather. I've got to be honest. It's just, here at the minute it's probably like 0 degrees Celsius, so 32 is that in Fahrenheit?
Yeah.
And in Florida it wasn't very warm, so I was getting my tan on a little bit out in Florida. Whereas at the minute I'm back to layering up with all my clothes. So.
So very unique. On the side of your car, you have a British Union Jack and then also Spanish flag. Tell me a little bit about that and the nationalities there.
So I've got a dual nationality. My obviously I was born and raised here in England, but my mother's originally from Barcelona in Spain. So she actually came over to the UK when she was 24. So everything's Spanish. Everyone in that side of my family still lives in Spain. She's the only one who's come over. So I see myself as very Spanish as well as English, So I'm very proud to represent both.
Fantastic. And I think you made note there that that's where you actually started karting, was in Spain on holiday. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. It was I actually used to have a little tricycle when I was a little kid, a toddler, and just to keep me out of trouble, because I was still am now, I guess, a bit troublesome, just like messing around and stuff. And one day it actually punctured, and my parents were a bit like, "Oh, what are we going to do with him now?" So luckily there was a little kart track up the road, and started going there. And the guy that ran that kart track was actually a former Spanish national karting champion in the 70s. So you can say I was in good hands straight off the bat, yeah.
Where Speedo Garrido was born right then at that point. That's correct, yeah. 2018, you won the Northern Irish Formula Ford Championship, and that earned you a entry into the Road to Indy. Tell me about racing in was that actually in Ireland, in England, or where were the races held?
So that championship was just all in Northern Ireland. I was doing 2 championships last season. The British, kind of the main national British Formula Ford, and the Northern Irish. But the thing with the Northern Irish is that it used to be an all-island championship. So obviously it's 2 countries on the one island. But then they kind of just ended up getting rid of all the Mondello Park races for one reason or another. So it just became just a Kirkstown, almost like club, but it was actually high-level competition because it was all the Irish lads would go and race in it, sort of thing. So that was cool to do last year, yeah. And it was almost like a preview of what was to come for this season.
It definitely is. Now that transition from karting to Formula and then into the Road to Indy cars, that transition, has it been easy for you? What is the biggest obstacle? Because while you were practicing on the other side of Sebring, I was running back and forth because they were having the Lucas Oil Racing School shootout. There were 27 karters, and for some of them, this was only their second or third time ever getting into a open wheel car. So talk about that transition.
Yeah, it's definitely a big change because you got stuff, say, body roll and using gears for the first time. I'm not sure if the Lucas Oil cars, do you heel and toe in that, or are they flappy pedals?
Now you're beyond my pay grade as to what they're doing in that. I know they were talking about trail braking and being able to get in. Okay. So very similar to what you're running in the Road to Indy cars.
Yeah, well, I think also I had a bit of a unorthodox transition from go-karts to cars because I actually raced Citroen Saxos, which is a little you know what a Citroen Saxo is? It's a little French car.
Yeah.
You know, what you'd see on the road. And so I was too young to race Formula Ford, which is I think it's a bit of a problem over here in the UK. You have to be 16 to race Formula Ford. And, you know, at 14, I was already 6'1", so I was too tall to be competitive in go-karts. So we made the jump to race Citroen Saxos when I was 15. And that was teaching me a lot about, you know, the tracks over here and in particular, and the kind of way that car racing works. And then when I turned 16, I actually left it a couple of months, but then at the end of 2016, when I was then 16 years of age, we then made the transition over to Formula Ford, which was always something that I dreamt of racing ever since I was 10 or 11 years old. So it was brilliant to get to do that for a couple of seasons.
The part that brings my initial smile is being 6'5" myself, is seeing someone that's 6'1", 6'2" fold up and get into the Citroen. But also the amount of body roll, because I'm sure it's not the stiffest suspension. And so you go into the turn and feel like you're actually going to, you really would get a lot of that front and then back as you got back on the accelerator, a lot more than a kart.
Yeah, a lot more. And a bit like you were saying with the trail braking, you know, you're really using the braking to affect, even if it's just a small tap, it's not actually to decelerate, it's all for body weight transfer. But actually it's funny you say that about it being soft, because I'd be in the pit lane waiting for a session, and if I kind of rocked my body side to side, the whole car would just be pitching side to side. So I used to just do it when I was bored in the pit lane. But yeah, it was obviously very different, and then that was very different to Formula Fords as well. So good learning curves.
So last year you make the transition, you come over to the States. You're running, you ran most of the season with USF2000, finished 14th in the standings despite missing the last 4 races in Portland, Laguna Seca. Talk to me about that experience. Talk to me about getting to some of these tracks the first time. And then also, you know, going from England to Northern Ireland, very similar in probably what side of the road you drive on and food you can get. About that transition coming to America.
Well, to be honest, the off-track stuff was probably the easiest part for me, because I was at the start of the season I was driving for Jay Howard, and towards the end I was driving for Bryn Nuttall. And you know, Jay, I mean, he's from the south of England and Bryn's from the north, so there's a little bit of difference there. But overall, you know, growing up, I was always meeting people from all over my own country. So that part was like very easy. So it almost felt like I was at home in that sense. The biggest challenge off circuit, I would say, was the food. Definitely the food, because it's just so difficult to keep healthy, you know, because it's always more expensive and harder to come by the fresher, like even the meats and stuff. Whereas out here, I think they're a lot stricter on the food rules and stuff, you know. So you kind of get used to eating well, even if it is a bit more expensive. And in fact, I remember I was living with Christian Rasmussen for a while, and we'd go shopping and stuff, and we'd be cooking chicken, and I remember thinking, wow, it's so cheap, like what a bargain. And you eat it and you're like, yeah, it tastes like plastic. So
there's a reason why. Very much we are a processed country, that's for sure. That could be a whole nother podcast on fitness and how to be able to shop for that. We're talking about Jay Howard, a couple different teams that were there, and that experience that it gave you of doing the different transitions. And do you feel that maybe held you back a bit?
No, I don't really. And if anything, I think it's made me grow a lot more as a person and as a driver, because you get to learn how to talk to different people in different ways. You know, everyone's got different lingo. And even just say if I had an American engineer, or then, for example, I had a Colombian mechanic at one point, you know, like all the sayings and everything, it's very different. And it's the same in English as it is in Spanish as well, because obviously my mother being Spanish, I can speak Spanish. But then you talk to, for example, Marco from Colombia, or even I've been tested with Juncos quite a bit, and they're all Argentinian, or speaking the Argentinian Spanish. It's all completely different to the Spanish I'm used to, which is very similar to how you and I would speak differently in English as well. But no, I don't think it held me back. I think, you know, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And hopefully what I've learned from this season, I can build into myself as a driver, but also as a person, and expand from there. You know.
I realize that brilliant can sometimes be a cuss word when you get out of the car as well. I've seen that sometimes, that you use a term and it could be something completely different. I think brilliant is, oh, it was all fantastic and everything, and you're just out of it. Ugh.
Yeah, I think you can definitely use it sarcastically.
So this winter, you talked about testing with Yukos. You had the opportunity to go through the Academy winter testing, although that's not an official Road to Indy event, much needed as to how it fills into the calendar. You were able to go to Palm Beach, filling in the listeners. It was Palm Beach, Homestead, and then on the short track at the technical part of Sebring, which people call their favorite part of the track. So that experience that you went through with the new team, walk me through what you felt, what that was like, being able to experience it, and then also jumping into the new car.
Yeah, well, actually, I also did the Chris Griffiths test as well at the Indy GP circuit. So there I got to, meet the lads and that, and see how they work. I was very impressed. So when they started talking about some potential winter testing down in Florida, it was a bit of a no-brainer for me, I'm very happy with how the team performed and how the car was, and I was just improving on myself time and time again, but also the way that they go about their engineering. It's no wonder why they've always got the best, if not one of the best cars on the grid in whether it's Indy Pro, Indy Lights, or even DPI, and now IndyCar as well, I guess.
Just every step of that, they were very prepared and very much go through that. Talk to me about the difference of the tracks and your working through data feeling and the feel of the car, the seat of the pants type of driving.
Yeah, well, the thing that comes with different tracks, obviously, is different setups. You're not going to bolt on your Sebring setup for Homestead, are you? Because one's so flat, and then Sebring is just, it's bumpier than St. Pete, I felt like, yeah. And, I was doing race runs, and I was doing like 25, 30 laps. And I come in, and to be fair, I was, normally I'm completely fine physically, but I was, feeling a bit. But the big thing was I had a headache. I'm like, why have I got a headache? And then you realise it's just because you're smashing your head on the headrest so much. It's just brutal. So, it's difficult to say, I can't felt this or that, because the tracks are so different, circumstances are so different. Even just, the type of asphalt on the circuit is going to have the car react differently. But overall, I think Sebring is a quality circuit. It's so cool. And so I really like that one. Homestead, I think I quite like the banking, that turn 11 off the banking. I quite like the corners like that, and also it's quite good for practicing, your hard braking and then your bleed offs with all the hairpins.
Yeah.
And then Palm Beach is probably my least favourite out of three, if I'm being completely honest, just because it doesn't quite challenge you the same as a driver, but also it's very it wears the tyres a lot, so you're kind of always chasing your own tail when it comes to setup and stuff, because it's a lot more estimated work than science, because the tyres 1 lap to 10 laps later is a complete different ballgame, whether they're new or not. So.
I see all the shells that were in the tires, and I had the same discussion with Christian Rasmussen. Of course, you drivers, you always want a brand new set of tires every 5 laps. You'd bolt them on. At some point in the season, Palm Beach is going to help you. And here's my theory behind that. You're going to have one of your races where you don't have a set of tires because of a puncture. You're going to have to go out in the race. You're going to have to go out in qualifying on a used set of tires. And that's where it's going to come in, because you were having to run those laps under the sun with the tires that just did not have the grip on a track that doesn't have any grip. That will come back to help you at some point.
Yeah, I agree, actually. And, these races, they're quite long. So to be able to learn how to be consistent, and it's one thing being consistent, say, in a Formula Ford back at home in England, but you don't have tyre drop-off in that. Whereas in this, it's a bit more, like IndyCar, like Formula One. You've got to be adapted not every lap, but every 4 or 5 laps, you've got to slightly adapt. And then, so it keeps you on your toes, you know, and I actually really enjoy that challenge.
As the fuel burns off, I always look for, did you set your fast lap of the race from lap 15 on when you're in that 25 lap race? That shows car control to me. That shows the drivers that are in the standings at the top part are the ones that can make those laps after lap 15, 20. You talked about Yukos. Ricardo was there for a majority of the testing. What's it like to get feedback from a professional such as Ricardo?
Oh, I actually really enjoyed working for Ricardo, and actually Ricardo was for 2 of the tests, he was my engineer. So the way that we actually tried different ways to see what the drivers and engineers preferred, but the one way that we were running it was each driver was allocated an engineer, and for both of those tests, it was Ricardo with me. And then actually Ricardo's younger brother Ale was my number 1 mechanic. So I felt, you know, very integrated, very part of the family, which was cool. But it's just like, I find it crazy how just a few seasons ago, you know, I was like, just even if I was karting or in Formula Ford over here in England, I was always looking up to IndyCar, and there I was like in the car next to an IndyCar team owner, and that for me is like really cool deal. You know, it's something that not many people get this opportunity, and even just to be here, you got to be grateful, and that's why I'm trying to work so hard for it and try and make it happen for my future. You know.
Understand that. I'd love to tell the stories of the drivers that are on the Road to Indy Series. You wouldn't be able to do this without sponsors. I believe I saw Excel Labels on there.
Yeah.
Tell me about Excel Labels. Tell me about your sponsors so that we can get them some recognition.
Yeah, so Excel Labels and I, it's quite a long partnership now. Started sponsoring me halfway through the 2017 season. And since then, we won the Anglesey Championship in Formula Ford in 2017, and obviously the Northern Irish last year, and came 3rd in the British last year. Then man was able to come over for that Phoenix shootout, or with my XL Labels suit and everything. So it's been great, you know, because they've helped me, and then I'm helping them get a bit of exposure. Obviously, they're just a sort of a national company, but if they can try and, you know, do some stuff abroad as well, America being a huge target, then obviously it would be very good for them as well.
Fantastic. Any other sponsors that you're working with? And, you know, we always want to also give a shout out Cooper Tire for giving such exposure to the series and such support to the series.
Yeah, so the other one would say Talk Racewear. They've been helping me out with, you know, my suit, with all the XL labels and stuff. So, and there's some very promising stuff coming up for next season with them. So them and XL labels, and then obviously my father as well. He's very supportive of my career.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Parents are something else on that.
Exactly.
You spend a lot of time on the sim. Are you one of the sim junkies, or and talk to me about what your setup is, your system, steering wheel, those types of things.
Actually, I knew this question would come because everyone my sort of generation is always playing on the simulator, but I actually don't have a sim setup at all. Speaking of which, though, last night it's very different. I was playing Gran Turismo for the first time in maybe 6 months, and it's amazing how like hooks you can get. And I was checking my phone, and it was, you know, 3:30 in the morning. I'm like, I've got to get to bed. So yeah, that stuff I think is actually a very good side of it. I think having a simulator is good. I've used like many in the past, and I do need to get my own setup. The reason why I haven't so far is because I've got very poor internet. I live out in the countryside now, and so I'm not sure if you've been able to tell by me lagging or whatever this conversation, but yeah, for me it's kind of like I don't want to go and invest in the whole simulator and that, and then not be able to do the whole deal, because that would almost be like a bit of a tease for me. Yeah, and that would just drive me up the walls, because then I'd have my mates going, come on then, hop online, and then we'd be smashing into each other because of lag or whatever. But whenever I'm at, say, a mate's house that's got a simulator, what I love doing is the time trials. So say, for example, the guy that I work for in karting, I do a lot of driver coaching for him.
Yeah.
he's got a big projector screen. It's like the size of the walls, 110 inches or something. So it's almost like virtual reality, you know. And we hop on and we do competitions where, so we have the bike machine in the same room, and it's the like fastest one to 10k, and then we'll do like time trial challenges and kind of work it all in together, you know. So I love that because it's competitive and it's just like, it's a good laugh. So but yeah, that's what I enjoy doing, and hopefully if I move to America next year, if I've got good internet, then I'll invest in a proper sim setup and take it all a bit more seriously, I guess.
Makes great sense.
Yeah.
Training wise, you've touched upon it a couple times, and I'd love to hear the different discussion between drivers that are 13, 14 years old that say, oh, well, I just sit on the sim, and that's their training regimen. Yet when you see the drivers, when you see someone like Jack Harvey and the amount of work that he's done in the gym, following him in social media, have you looked at adjusting your training regimen for the upcoming year to be ready for a full season in, say, Indy Pro 2000?
Not so much. I think it's funny you mentioned Jack Harvey, actually, because he was always one of my heroes to say. When I was first starting out in karting, he was the couple of years previous, he was seriously cleaning up in the national ranks, junior level. So I always then watched his career, and he's actually the one that I knew of IndyCar before, but then when he came to Indy Lights, he's actually the reason why Indy Lights and the Road to Indy was highlighted for me in the first place. It was because of Jack Harvey, and that's when then it became, you know, a target of mine to try and do that. So yeah, it's just kind of cool that you mentioned him, because I think he's very, very good and a bit of a hero of mine. But going back to the training question, not so much it changes what I do. I think, you know, there's certain areas of your body where you need good strength, say your neck, your shoulders, your back, your core, and then you want to kind of build up everything else around that. So if you've got weak legs, then that's not going to help. So you're training legs and arms, especially. One thing that I always found a bit challenging was probably the grip on the steering wheel, so like your finger strength. But then, you know, it's kind of funny because growing up karting, you just become a little machine without really realizing, and then you're kind of messing around with your mates, and you're always strong, like you got good grip and stuff. Whenever you're having a play fight or whatever, a little scrap in the playground, and that all derives from the karting. So I think karting's actually a very good method of training, and I would definitely like to integrate that more into my training throughout this winter whilst I'm at home and have access to my go-kart.
Start shoveling.
Yeah.
Bundle up and be out there karting that goes through it. I would start to note and look at the drivers that take it serious, training and fitness serious in the road to Indy. I think that's going to be the next wave and the next differentiator. You see the pit fit drivers that are doing it in IndyCar, that trickle down of drivers doing CrossFit or doing those types of things. So mark my word, you heard it here, that's going to be something that over the trend of the next 4 or 5 years that you'll see drivers doing. I want you to dream with me for a little bit. Obviously, you've had dreams of, you know, being in England and doing the racing and then coming over here. What would it be like to sit on the grid and start and be one of the chosen 33?
I knew you were going to say that.
For the Indy 500.
It would be amazing. You know, it would be absolutely brilliant. And it would be, for me now, sat here and, you know, my dad's office in England, it's kind of impossible to say how I'd be feeling. I think it'd be kind of dependent on the situation on the day. But I like you say, every kid has it where you dream about winning these big races like the Indy 500, Daytona 24-hour. And even then back in Europe, like the Le Mans and Monaco Grand Prix, and you dream about that as a kid, and I don't think you'd be able to put it into words. Like the only way I can kind of explain how I think I would feel, because the biggest races I've won so far would just be like kind of an outpour of emotion, because it's like, you know, you put in all this work in over so many years, and then to finally get there, to finally be one of them 33. I mean, a lot of people have sacrificed a lot to even get me to where I am today. So yeah, hopefully I'm one of the lucky ones, and I'll tell you then in a few years.
Sounds good. I'll be there. I'll be there
Yeah,
for sure.
brilliant.
And love the build up for that. Looking forward to great things for you in the upcoming year.
Thank you.
Fingers crossed as you work on all of those final details as to where you're actually going to be and what team, and look forward to the announcements that come out from that. Probably the most important question that I have to ask out of the entire day. What's your favorite English Premier League team, or are you more of a Spanish league team?
Okay, so there's a bit of a story behind this.
Okay.
So I'm actually a Football Club Barcelona fan, which
Okay.
obviously is a Spanish club or Catalan club. And the reason for this is my mother, she's obviously a big Barcelona fan, and all my Spanish side of the family is. And I'd always tell my mates and that growing up, they'd be like, oh, you're a glorious supporter, you're supposed to support someone English. And the area I'm from, in the Black Country, you've either got people that support West Bromwich Albion or Aston Villa, which is on the other side of Birmingham.
Okay.
But then, say my dad was always an Aston Villa fan growing up, and he actually got scouted by Aston Villa.
Okay.
And then he broke his back at 15, so it was kind of like dream over and all the rest of it. So he was very sour about it, and then never watched football again. And then the irony is, then actually my older half brother, he also got scouted by Aston Villa, and he did a bit more. I'm not sure if he did a season or what in the academy. But then he broke his leg, so so I think Aston Villa must be bad luck for my family or something. And but yeah, because of that, it was always only my mum watching football, and then I feel lucky to have lived in like the best era of, in my mind, of any football team in the whole history of the world. So and it was my club, and so I'm very proud to support Barcelona, and hopefully we can win the league again this year, and hopefully go get our 6th Champions League as well.
Well, and you would be considered a front runner in the States. That's someone that roots for the Yankees, that had never lived there, but they root for the Yankees, or they root for the Patriots or the Red Sox, or so many Dallas Cowboy fans that it's not even funny. I myself am a Portland Timbers fan. It's probably the closest to a European crowd that you can ever get, and I'm waiting for the schedule to come out. Hopefully there'll be a Timbers home game with the Portland Grand Prix that goes out there.
Actually, my brother-in-law is a Dallas Cowboys. Is that right? Yeah, the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, he's a Dallas Cowboys fan. And he's saying he's going to fly out to Texas and go watch one.
We all have one in every family, and
I don't know anything about it, so I can't really say. I guess if I move out to America, whatever my local club or team or whatever it will be, I'll probably just maybe not support them, but go watch them, because I'd love to go watch an American football game, and also basketball. I'm interested in basketball a lot. I find the whole NBA very cool as well. So that's a cool sport.
Great experience, and also college ball. If you get an opportunity to go to a college game, a Virginia, North Carolina, or North Carolina Duke, that type of game is just amazing to go through it. So much. To go back in time to be your age and experience all of the things that you have in front of you. Wish you nothing but the best to go through that. Folks, make sure that you follow Matt on social media. He's active on there and does a great job of promoting his racing career and the sponsors that he has. And would love for you to subscribe to 33 Dreams of Indy. We're on every major player, including the iHeart Radio podcast, Apple, Google, all of those. And because we do the video format of this, we also have a YouTube channel. So it would mean a lot to me for you to subscribe and stay in touch with it. And Matthew, we will see you in a couple months. I already know that. We'll see you in a couple months here in my home track of St. Pete. So you can get back here for some Florida weather and preseason testing before that.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Fantastic. So till next time, keep dreaming.
Cheers, mate.
Okay. Hope you enjoyed this video from 33 Dreams of Indy. It would mean the world to me if you would click subscribe so that you could be notified of any new videos that come along.